sorry, I have to end the video because the time was running out. But at the same time, like Barcelona, like you have to fix your issues. You have to fix your problems. Like if you have a problem, try to fix it. Like don't be like whatever, it doesn't matter. Like you're constantly getting exposed defensively by that high line, and it cost you the Champions League last season. So Hansi Flick and Barcelona need to learn from their mistakes, and they need to and not be like stubborn, you know. So because otherwise, if they keep defending like this for the rest of the season, there's no chance they're going to win the Champions League. So yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry that I was talking about the same topic. I'm gonna talk about different topics in the same video, but it's because the previous video ran out. But let's talk about Formula One, the Brazilian Grand Prix, Sao Paulo. It's very famous. It's a very famous track, and I'm very excited. It's a very famous track for championship deciding races, like for example 2008, 2007, 2009, 2012. Many races where it was decided in Brazil. Rain races, which can be very dramatic, very chaotic, like 2008, last year, 2016. Qualifying even, where we saw Kevin Magnussen get a pole position there years ago. George Russell getting his first win in Brazil as well. There's always like a drama, good drama in Brazil, and exciting races. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's a famous track, obviously, with great drivers who are from Brazil, like Ayrton Senna, for example, Felipe Massa as well. So yeah, and obviously the only Brazilian right now who's driving for in Formula One is Gabriel Bortoleto, but he's a rookie. He just arrived to Formula One. But yeah, it's going to be a fascinating weekend. It's a sprint weekend. It could rain. If you look at the weather condition, it's most likely it's going to rain on sprint race and qualifying on Saturday. And Sunday it should be dry. And Friday there's going to be a thunderstorm. But is that going to be in time for the sprint qualifying? I doubt it. So most likely there will be rain on Saturday, which is going to be sprint race and the qualifying, whereas the sprint qualifying and the race should be dry. But yeah, it's going to be a fascinating weekend, and obviously you have the three drivers fighting for the Drivers' World Championship 2025: Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri is not performing well right now. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen are performing fantastically well. They're in a very good form right now, in a very good shape. And Max Verstappen, I know he didn't win in Mexico, but since the summer break, he's always been in the podium. Even if he didn't win, he always been in the podium. He's been a good run of form. However, is it too little, too late? However, should have he done better? And should have he and Red Bull done better in Mexico? Because let's not forget, we expected Max Verstappen to do well in Mexico with the upgrades that Red Bull brought in, how fast they were in the previous races, and yet they were 30 seconds behind Lando Norris. So, but yeah, as Max Verstappen said, that they're not going to be fast in every scenario. So sometimes, this Red Bull car it's been very consistent. 1 week, in Monza, where they usually struggle, like last season, for example, they were very fast there. Where in Mexico, where they're usually fast, they struggled this year. So it's the unpredictability that you sometimes try to figure out what's wrong with the Red Bull car and Verstappen. But he has a chance to close the gap, to get closer to Lando and to Oscar for the Drivers' World Championship. And it's a track he usually does well. He always does well. We all know what he did in Brazil last year. We all know what he did in Brazil in 2016. And if it's wet, don't bet against him. Because if it's wet, then he's gonna. I'm pretty sure he's gonna have a masterclass. That's for sure. But great performance. But yeah, Lando Norris also is in a very good run of form. He won the Mexico Grand Prix, and you can tell with the ways Lando has been active for the last couple of months. He's creating a siege mentality, with the people booing him for some reason, and the way he responded to it was fantastic. You can tell that he's creating a siege mentality, a bit like Max, Senna, Schumacher, and Lewis Hamilton used to do, where can rise their level of performance. It's the pattern of the great ones, which is creating the siege mentality. And honestly, I'm a neutral F1 fan, but if Lando Norris wins this year's championship, the meltdown of everybody will be amazing to see. But anyway, but he's in a very good run of form, and yes, people said that he's going to flop this weekend because he did poorly in Brazil last year. Yeah, but that was Lando Norris last year. That was not experience in fighting for a Drivers' World Championship. That was a Lando Norris that was like, let's say, sometimes he was prone to mistakes. He was very fast, but he was at times he had a mistake in him. This year is very different. He's very different. He's emotionally and mentally more stable. He makes less mistakes. He's been very consistent. Whenever he's never gone back-to-back races without a podium, whereas his teammate in the last 4 or 5 races, 0 podiums. He's been very consistent, and even when he had 2 DNFs, 3 DNFs, he's still leading the Drivers' World Championship. So he's been very consistently good this season, and also in the difficult races, where in the past, like sometimes in wet races he can do well, sometimes in wet races he can do badly. Like for example, Russia 2021. Brazil last year. I think there was other wet race as well where he didn't do well. I don't remember. I think it was Zandvoort or something like that. I don't remember. But and there was some good races that he had on the wet. Russia qualifying, Brazil qualifying, etc. So Canada, for example, I thought he was amazing last year. But this season he's been very good in the wet in general. He's won every single race in the wet this season. He's won Miami Sprint, he's won Australia, he won Silverstone. Yes, I know Spa was wet, but it was wet, and then the race delayed, and then it went to dry. But in all the wet races, Lando's won all of them. He's won all of them, and yes, Brazil, he had a nightmare last season in race, but people forget in the difficult conditions in the qualifying he got pole. People forget that. But at the same time, I think he's emotionally and psychologically more stable. I think if he doesn't win, I think he will at least finish second, finish above Oscar something. I think he will get good points. I don't see him if he doesn't win the race in Brazil, and if it's let's say it's wet, I don't see him finishing 5th or 6th, because last season he was making mistakes, but he was emotionally. I won't say he was weak, because that's not fair. He's not weak. He's never been weak. But I would say he was not experienced in that kind of area, fighting for the Drivers' World Championship and handling that pressure. But this season he's much better at that. So yeah. And you look at Oscar Piastri, who's not been performing really well. But at the same time, form goes out the window, especially in this kind of Brazil races, because how many times we see, for example, we all thought Max Verstappen was going to win the 2021 title in a cruise way, but then Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton came back with a fantastic engine, and Lewis Hamilton had to start from last and come back and win the race. Verstappen, where we all thought the title was slipping away from him and it was heading to the direction of Norris last season after qualifying, Verstappen absolutely crushed it and destroyed everybody in the race. So Brazil can be a deciding factor in the title race. Listen, it's not the main race that is gonna decide the title, of course, because there are still 3 races and 1 sprint: Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. But I think it's going to be a very important race for all the 3 drivers psychologically, especially if it's wet. Even if it's wet, let's say in a sprint race. In a sprint race, you don't get much point as the race. It's going to be a very important race psychologically. If Lando gets a good result, in the sprint and the race in Sao Paulo this weekend, that's going to be huge for him psychologically going forward. Verstappen, of course, he has to win because he's 36 points behind McLaren's. And after Brazil, he doesn't have much chances to win races, because in Las Vegas, yes, McLaren are weaker than Red Bull Las Vegas, but I don't think Red Bull are faster than Mercedes in Las Vegas, or even faster than Ferrari. In Qatar, it's a McLaren track. in Abu Dhabi is a McLaren track as well. So it feels like it's an opportunity that Max Verstappen has to win. He has to win this weekend to have any proper chance of winning this driver championship, or even taking this title fight to Abu Dhabi. So it's going to be a very important race, and for Oscar it's going to be a very important race as well. Can he bounce back? It's going to be a very important weekend for him, Oscar. Can he bounce back? And in Brazil he can do well. He got sprint pole last year, even though Lando didn't go for the second run in SQ3. In sprint he was in control, but obviously McLaren used the team also because obviously they wanted to help Norris for the Drivers' World Championship. So but he was good there last year. So let's see. Yes, Oscar didn't do well in the quali and in the race though. That's the issue. So yeah, but let's see. It's going to be a very fascinating one, and it's a race where sometimes the form goes out the window, even though if you're not doing well. Like Verstappen before Brazil, he didn't win a race for like 9 races, and then he won in Brazil instantly. So sometimes the form goes out the window in this kind of races like Brazil. So yeah, who do I think is going to be fast? I think if it's dry, McLaren should, I think Norris and McLaren should win. If it's wet, then it's everybody's game. Anybody can win. Now let's move on to. So you look at the other teams. You look at Mercedes. I think Russell is usually good in Brazil. Like he won obviously there in 2022. He won the sprint in 2022, and last year he was he was a bit unlucky not to be in the podium because I thought he had a good race last year there. But with the unfortunate red flag and etc. Ferrari, I don't expect something special from them this weekend. Kick Sauber, they've done quite well in the last couple of races. Bortoletto performing well in Mexico, so let's see what they can do this time. And it's a home race for him, so you should be looking forward to it. Alpine, I don't expect something special from them. Williams, I think they can do something this weekend. I think they can have a good weekend. Vicarb, sometimes the up, sometimes the down. It's difficult to predict them. Aston Martin, I don't expect them something special from them this weekend. Haas, they've had a fantastic races. Last 2 races, Berman had 2 good races in Austin and Mexico. Let's see if he can keep this run of form. But I think the best of the rest, I think is going to be Williams, in my opinion. I think it's going to be Williams. I think the best of the rest will be Williams. So, yeah. But yeah, my prediction, sprint pole position. First of all, sprint pole, that's first. Sprint pole, I'm going for Lando Norris. I think Lando Norris will get a sprint pole. Race victory, I'm going for... sprint race victory and sprint top 3. First position, I'm going for also... I think Lando will win also the sprint race. Second position, I'm going for Oscar Piastri. And third position, I'm going for... No, it's gonna rain. No, it's gonna rain the sprint. You know what? No. Max Verstappen will win the sprint. Second position, Lando Norris. And third position... I'm not sure even Oscar's gonna get third. Especially if it's most likely gonna rain the sprint race. I don't know. You know what? Let's go Piastri third. Piastri third, Norris second, and Max Verstappen first. And I predict Verstappen to win, not because Verstappen is just good in the rain. So Lando is good as well, but I think Verstappen is slightly better. So yeah, in qualifying pole, I'm going for Max Verstappen as well. In the race, I actually think in the race where it's most likely it's going to be dry, McLaren should win it. In the race, I'm actually going for Oscar Piastri here. I think Oscar Piastri will bounce back. I really think so. I have a feeling it's going to be a good weekend for him. Considering maybe he's not leading the championship anymore, maybe it should help him. Maybe it's going to help him. It shouldn't take that long for you to help that, but maybe it's going to help him. So I think Oscar will win. Second position, Lando Norris, and third position, Max Verstappen. That's it, guys. Thank you. I wish you have a nice day. See you next time, and goodbye.